The road changes you if you let it. It carves grooves into your habits, alters your sense of time, and teaches you to read quiet like a language. I learned that the hard way. My name is Daniel Hart. In October 2019, I was driving from Spokane, Washington to Calgary to see my sister's newborn. I chose the car because I liked the solitude of night drives. The highway felt like an honest place where the world could be paused. I plotted a course up Highway 95 through Idaho, a familiar route in daylight, strange at midnight. I remember the exact date because my sister sent a photo of the baby at 6:02 a.m. on October 18th. Pink face, tiny clenched fists. I wanted to be there the next morning. Somewhere past Coeur d'Alene, after the radio went thin and the traffic evaporated, I saw him. Standing on the shoulder beneath the green sign that read Bonner's Ferry 12. At first I thought he was hitching, or a hunter, but he didn't move or signal. He wore a dark green jacket and a cap, his hands shoved into his pockets. The trees loomed close to the road there, spruce and cedar making shapes under my headlights like stacked shadows. When our eyes met, his face was narrow and pale, like paper beneath the skin. He smiled the way an old hinge opens, slow, inevitable, and wrong. I kept driving. 5 minutes later, the mile marker read 197, and there he was again, on the shoulder. I told myself fatigue, or an odd trick of light. 10 minutes later, he stood in my lane. I braked until my lungs felt like they might collapse. He didn't step away. For a second, we watched each other. Then he smiled that same slow grin, and I swerved around him, heartbeat banging like a fist on the steering wheel. At my sister's house the next morning, daylight diluted the memory. I made coffee, held the baby, and tried to think of practical things, but night keeps its own ledger. That week I dreamed I'd stalled on Highway 95. Footsteps crunched outside my car. When I looked, a face was inches from the glass. Hollow eyes, a grin too wide. I woke with rust on my tongue and the taste of the road in my throat. I avoided that highway afterward, rerouting through Montana on every return. Months passed. Then work called me to Vancouver. I convinced myself I'd be careful, that the road's tricks belonged to inertia and insomnia. But whatever it was had patience. One night in Vancouver, I caught his shape in the reflection of a hotel window. The Georgia on Hastings, floor 7, a cheap room with a city view. He stood under a distant streetlight in an alley, looking up at my room as if he'd found the right window. For a long second, my mind tried to tell me reflections invert things, and that sleep deprivation plays tricks. The air tasted like the afterspark of fireworks. I couldn't sleep. I told a friend, Lee Thornton, an old trucker I'd met at a dive bar who drove logs up and down I-90. Lee drinks like he catalogs mistakes, and he's a man who listens for patterns. He laughed first, then went quiet. "You ever hear truckers talk?" Lee asked. "Mile marker 197. Folks say he turns up in half a dozen places on the same run. Pictures come out blurred or empty. Drivers get spooked and avoid that stretch. It would have been easy to treat that as a tale, another frontier superstition. But the world prefers stories that let us sleep. The reality was stranger. Small things piled up. A smear across a coworker's photo where a face should have been. A jacket slung over a delivery truck that no one claimed. Delayed packages left at my door without signatures. I chalked the first footsteps outside my apartment up to an early morning dog walker until I found boot prints in the frost that led up to my bedroom window and stopped. The prints were larger than mine, with a tread pattern I couldn't place, deeper grooves, an odd crescent at the outer edge. Deputy Harris came by, a blunt man with soft eyes. He took notes, walked my yard with a flashlight, and told me to call if anything else happened. He sat at my kitchen table and said, "We get calls. People see things on that road. Usually it's drunk drivers or misidentification, His voice had the steadiness you give children when a house is on fire, an attempt to arrange chaos into something bearable. I wanted misidentification. Then Tyler Monroe, a kid from 2 houses down, disappeared. Tyler skateboarded at night and avoided curfews. He was 17 and impatient in the way teenagers are. His mother called him a question mark. One November evening, he didn't come back. The town organized searches, lights moving like fireflies through the trees, neighbors calling names until their throats were raw. A search dog found a wheel mark. Volunteers found Tyler's skateboard face down at mile marker 197, wheels toward the sky under sodium light. A sheriff's cruiser idled nearby. The sight of that board under the weak lamp was the first thing that made me feel the kind of fear that lodges in bone. Sheriff Dale once took me into his small, cluttered office and leaned across his desk with a stack of photocopied reports. They dated back more than a decade. Calls from truckers, notes from campers, entries from people driving late who remembered a man in a green jacket. There were inconsistencies, times, descriptions, but the center bulb of it all was mile marker 197. "Patterns tell you where to look," he said, tapping the paper. "We're looking." The gossip churned. A Facebook group called Idaho Road Sightings collected stories and pixelated photos. An online thread grew, some posts jokey, some raw. People asking if anyone had seen their son. A reporter from the regional paper, Claire, quick-lipped and precise, came to my kitchen table. She wanted details, times, weather, what the thing smelled like. She ran a careful piece. After it appeared, more people came forward with small anomalies. A photo that had been fine until viewed on another screen. A truck driver who stopped and claimed his dash cam produced a perfect field of black where a person should have been. Then Deputy Harris vanished. He'd been out following a lead near a culvert the week after Tyler disappeared. His cruiser was found idling with a coffee cup half full. A search turned up nothing. The county called in extra teams and everyone went home with hollow hope that the next morning would tilt things back to normal. It didn't. I tried the practical things people do when the unexplainable touches them. I bought a trail camera and mounted it at the height of a man's chest near marker 197. Battery new. Card empty. I checked the footage the next morning with a bright, humiliating hope. Files were corrupted. The display jittered like a TV with poor reception. One single clear black frame showed an expanse of asphalt, a wet patch where tire tracks stopped, and nothing else. The camera's timestamp had a 1-second gap where my camera clock read 1:57 a.m. A jacket appeared on the roadside a few weeks later. Dark green, weathered, patched along the sleeve. Blood-faint marks stained the cuff. DNA tests returned a muddle. Skin cell fragments from multiple people. Hair that matched no one in the database. And an odd chemical signature on the stitching indicating old industrial dye. It was like finding a garment that had been passed from hand to hand for decades, bearing traces of many lives but belonging to none. Neighbors changed their routes. The diner shortened hours. I started keeping a folder at home labeled Highway 95. Prints of police reports, Claire's article, my corrupted photos. A scrap of green cloth I found snagged on my bumper one morning. I cataloged absence, Tyler's skateboard fragment, Deputy Harris's paperwork, the jacket results. I taped the journal into the folder and wrote in the margin, in a hand that felt foreign, "Do not stop." A film student once set up multiple cameras for a night at 197. He fell asleep in his van and later sent me footage that was mostly fog and trees, until, at 1:57 a.m., the image centered on a dark shape at the edge of the beam. He awoke to the sound of a vehicle leaving and an empty van. These are not cinematic moments so much as a ledger of small absences, each one a missing entry in the town's account book. I have tried to pry at the problem with logic. State investigators, lab reports, camera specialists. The experts offer sterile, partial answers. Corrupted files, atmospheric optical effects, suggestibility under stress. None account for Tyler's skateboard, Deputy Harris's abandoned cruiser, or the chest-high boot prints that led to my bedroom window and stopped. None explain the impressions on photographs where faces should have been. People ask if I am angry. Angry seems too simple. What I feel is a kind of slow mourning, an ache for the ordinary things that evaporate. A neighbor returning home late, a deputy finishing his shift, a kid who shows up for dinner. You learn grief is not always loud. Sometimes it is a small untidiness in the day, a canceled coffee date, a client who stops answering emails, until the shape of absence becomes the new normal. So I watch and I keep records. I sleep with the curtains drawn and a kitchen knife within reach like a child's talisman. I moved once, then again, hoping distance might reduce the sensation of being counted. It didn't. The road has patience. It waits for you to forget it. Then it reminds you. Tonight, the clock reads 1:57 a.m. I have a cup of bad coffee cooling beside my notebook. The footsteps outside begin, soft gravel under sole, then stop, then start again like a hesitant metronome. I go to the window and pull the curtain back an inch. He stands below the streetlight, hands in his pockets, the green jacket drinking the lamplight. Close enough to see the lines around his mouth. He lifts a hand slowly, not to wave, but as if to point. And for an instant I understand that some things that follow roads are not interested in being seen. They are interested in counting, in marking who passed last and who they took with them. If you drive the inland northwest at night and you come across a figure at the shoulder, do what I wish I'd done from the start. Drive on. Notice the mile marker number. Tell someone in the morning. Don't take the photograph expecting a face to hold the world. Keep going. There is power in witness and in movement. The knock on the glass is soft, then urgent. The curtains tremble. I fold the journal shut and slide the folder into a drawer. Outside, the footsteps fade for now. The streetlight buzzes. The road exhales and waits. If the tapping resumes and I do not finish, remember the names taped inside that folder. Tyler Monroe, Deputy Harris, Sheriff Dale. This is the record of a man who tried to be a witness. This is how I keep account. What would you do if you saw a figure on the side of a deserted highway?